Drug discovery is incredible. I think the way that we deliver treatments to patients, in the past, we've thrown things at them as a standard treatment, just hoping it would work. We'll be able to predict which thing you should try first for which individual person, and AI has a tremendous amount in that.
Companies that use a lot of AI, from healthcare, defense tech. Are you excited or nervous about the future?
I am super excited. Healthcare and finance are probably the two areas that are being most impacted quickly by AI. And so San Diego is now the global central hub for AI and healthcare companies.
What in that intersection between AI and healthcare, is there anything that's standing out to you right now that's going to transform our lives in, let's say, the next 5 years? All right, today we have James Zanewicz.
You got it.
Okay. James Zanewicz, a newly appointed CEO of Connect.org, a very important incubator and funding platform for AI, healthcare, defense tech. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks so much. It's very exciting to be here. Nice to be in a studio and do this live.
Yeah, this is great. And you know media well. You come from a background of media.
Yeah, back in my 20s, I worked for and started new media for the TV show Extra, which back then meant AOL and eventually an internet site. Yeah, so I can code in Rain Man, which is the most useless skill ever.
I haven't even heard of it, to be honest.
Rain Man was the coding stuff for AOL back in the day. It was their language.
Well, we've come a long way since then. Now we're in AI.
It's crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, let's just kind of start right there, because I think it's the hottest topic of our lifetime. So AI right now is, you're dealing with companies that use a lot of AI, from healthcare, defense tech, just tech in general. Are you excited or nervous about the future now that AI's got rolling along a little bit?
I am super excited. It's one of the things that I was fortunate to be able to jump into in 2019 early on, before it kind of became in the cultural zeitgeist. At JPM that year, JPM Healthcare Week up in San Francisco, I met a group that was forming an organization called the Alliance for AI in Healthcare, or Alliance for Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare. Because when you look at things, healthcare and finance are probably the two areas, and in finance it's a lot of tech, the two areas that are going to be most impacted quickly by AI, just because of what you can accomplish. And I, coming from an academic medicine background at that point, saw the potential for this and had Tulane join the group. And that has been really serendipitous, because as part of my transition here to Connect and my board membership there, the Alliance for AI in Healthcare is now a program run by Connect, as opposed to being an independent organization, so we can bring the power of our entities together. And so San Diego is now the global central hub for AI and healthcare companies, which is really cool.
So what in that intersection between AI and healthcare, is there anything that's standing out to you right now that's going to transform our lives in, let's say, the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I think drug discovery is incredible. I think the way that we deliver treatments to patients, because there are companies that are doing things they call digital twins, where basically it's almost like an AI version of you and your genome to predict how you're going to respond to medicines. So for diseases where often in the past we've thrown things at them as a standard treatment, just hoping it would work, and then you go on to the next thing and hope it works. We'll be able to predict which thing you should try first for which individual person, and AI has a tremendous amount in that, which gives you the chance to perhaps be cured, quicker and more effectively, and B, through a much less miserable process. Because you think about chemo and things like that and what you go through, it's not a pleasant process. And if you're more likely to respond to this thing they would have gone to second, just start there.
Are you worried about, though, big companies that AI might take over coding, or might take over some healthcare? Like, if it solves a chemo thing, a lot of businesses are going to go out of business with that. Is that a concern, do you think, for businesses?
Always going to be new business and new things. And I think as long as you're watching where things are going and are training yourself to get there, I think some career areas may disappear, much like back in the industrial age, where a lot of things became automated. I think we'll have a similar shift. But I think as long as we focus on, I don't think people aren't going to have to work. I think they're always going to have that human touch and human intervention, that human spark of creativity. It just means our jobs will look different and perhaps more enjoyable in many ways.
Definitely, we got to pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to pay attention. You got to put your thought cap on and say, or otherwise you could drown in a sea of forward-moving innovation.
And it's like, and you have to kind of, I think, focus on which area you want to be part of, because there's so much, you can't do it all.
I want to back up and talk about you a bit. So tell me, who is James? Like, where did you grow up? What did you study? And how did you get to
I
where
think
you
we
are
need
now?
therapy for that. I don't know. My friend Elaine would be happy I said that. But no, so yeah, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. To my parents, I have my mom was a dairy farmer's daughter from Wisconsin. My dad, a steel mill worker's kid from Pittsburgh. Dad first in his family to go to college. My mom went to nursing school back when you went and worked inside a hospital and it wasn't college. They're called
Mm-hmm.
diploma nurses. And so you know, grew up though they as a frustrated city kid, my dad wanted land. My mom was used to it. We moved to Kentucky, grew up on 10 acres where my job on the weekend was to, pull weeds and mow the grass. And I now live in condos and apartments for that reason. But so did that. Went to college in smaller town Kentucky at Center College in Danville, Kentucky. 814 total, a third the size of my high school. And then after that, worked as a chemist. Hated it, made paint, watched it dry. The project didn't work. That is as exciting as it sounds. And so it was like, this is not
Mm.
for me. Went to law school because I scored really well on the exam, which is not a reason to go to law school. But went to law school at Tulane University, sight unseen. Back before the internet, they had a really great catalog. They were nice on the phone. It was a world class city, and I wanted to have that kind of different experience. And so moved to New Orleans, which changed kind of my perspective on life and everything else. And I always tell folks going to school in New Orleans is almost like a study abroad experience in America in many ways. But got my law degree there, worked in New York 2 summers, in New Jersey. New Jersey, I worked for the chemical company some more, but then I'd met a friend in law school who had been the VP of Gray Advertising. She got me a job working with a casting director in New York. So I got to work on casting for several plays,
Wow.
shows and stuff for 2 weeks, just random and cool. It's just like I worked the front desk, but got to see how things work and do that. And all that kind of led to working in online at that point, which was AOL and CompuServe and Prodigy, all things that people had never really heard of as much now, but were kind of the drivers of the internet
Mm.
age. And that led to working with Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers offering me a job to come out and start a new media division for their television show Extra as it launched, which all came out of the Mardi Gras parade because Arthel Neville of the Neville family, the musicians, was one of the first co-hosts of Extra. And I
Wow.
met her at a Mardi Gras parade my third year of law school as I was graduating, saying, I need a job. I want to work in entertainment. She's like, I have a new show. You should send a resume. And I did and had a job like 3 months later. It was crazy.
Wow. Now you opened up the new media division of Extra. What
Yeah.
what was that at the time?
So it was AOL.
Oh.
So really, it was keyword extra on AOL. It was writing about. Yeah, I made no money, but in my 20s, I was paid to go and interview celebrities and write about them, and got to watch TV shows early. Back before streaming, where you had to get things on tapes. They would send us tapes in advance, so I got to watch
Mm.
things like in advance. Or I still remember my very first press junket was for the movie Bed of Roses with Christian Slater and Mary Stuart Masterson, and got to go interview them on the red carpet. So it kind of leads to all this kind of stuff. Like you learn to do that, and
Yeah.
it is funny too. I think as you get older, you get way more comfortable in your own skin.
Mm.
And I wish I could go back to me then and be like, here are the ways you interact with people way more comfortably and aren't awkward.
Mm. So after Extra, where did
Yeah.
you go after that?
So after Extra, I realized I needed to pay back the $120,000 I borrowed for law school, and so got a job working for the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, doing what they call tech transfer and industry partnerships, which is helping to move innovations out of the universities and helping companies work with the universities better.
Mm. And then after that?
After that, University of Louisville, or Louisville if you're not from there, where I grew up to start their office. Around that, grew it for myself to about 18 people by the time I left. Then bounced up to Washington, D.C. to work for the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Geneva Research Campus. I would call what I did there more innovation philanthropy, because while they wanted to move things out, they developed a lot of new tools for scientists, and they wanted to sell them as cheaply as possible at the highest quality, so they knew that science was impacted in the best way. They also had a $19 billion endowment, so bringing money in was a pain for them to have to account for. And so they just didn't want to do it. And then after 5 years there, I saw the job at Tulane, my alma mater, as their chief business officer, to start doing corporate investor partnerships. Applied for it. That said you had to have an MD or a DVM, but I ignored that. I always encourage people to ignore things if you think they're the right fit and tell them why. And I said, here's why I think I'm right. I was fortunate that from my LLM at Illinois, I got my second law degree there. My favorite professor's husband was the dean of the law school, and she was teaching there. I sent her a note and just said, I applied for this job. I'll probably never get it because I do not have an MD or DVM. And she sent my boss Lee Ham, the dean of the med school at that point, um, uh, like a 2-page email about why he should talk to me. And he's like, "So we gave you a courtesy interview, and then you sold us."
You make success sound so easy.
I don't know that it's easy because there's a lot of times where I fail, but I do
Yeah.
think it all comes down to relationships
Mm.
and being intentional and staying in touch with people, and that is really how you're able to move forward and why I'm so passionate about helping people who don't necessarily, have that. Because I grew up in the country, I didn't have all that access. I was fortunate that my dad was a chemical engineer and an MBA, so I got little bits. And my mom was in healthcare and had us working and volunteering in a hospital at age 14, which is probably illegal. I don't know, but they were short staffed. But I got exposed
Wow.
to health and science and things through home, and I think it's really important that we do that for the generation coming up to show them that these kinds of jobs are possible.
Mm, mm. Do you think focus and concentration, do you have that? Is that a skill that you brought to being successful in all the
Oh,
endeavors?
no, and Trey's over here. He's like, focus and concentration. No, no, yeah, I can be focused and concentrated at the moment, but I think what I bring is, and it's interesting. I worked with Ashley Stahl, who has a huge TED Talk that blew up in books and things. It actually worked with her after COVID, and I bring what she dubs as creativity, which is seeing patterns no one else sees,
Mm.
which tends to make you less focused and less concentrated, I think, because you're paying attention to all the shiny objects out there, and then you put them together in really interesting different ways.
And that's what Trey's here to help you with, right? The
Yeah,
focus
Trey
and
is much
concentrate.
better at focus and concentration.
That's like my Chris too back there, right? We're the driving these guys crazy.
Yeah,
So wait. So Country Boy, then Country Boy, entertainment, law school, biotech and healthcare,
yeah.
and then it all brings you to, which all makes sense
It all
actually,
makes sense for yeah, it's
surprisingly,
bizarre, right?
and then to connect. So James, Country Boy,
Yeah.
then law school.
I had to bail hay to learn to be well rounded. My mom wanted to make sure that we understood the country life.
Understood. But then law school,
Chemist, then law school,
then
yes.
law school, and then healthcare and
No,
academics,
then entertainment,
entertainment,
and
back to
then
healthcare,
academia,
academia.
which was I was more engineering tech at that
Mm,
point,
mm.
then more healthcare and engineering, then healthcare and healthcare. Yeah,
We had the tech in there too. So
yeah, yeah,
all of this is leading up to where you're at today.
100%.
And so tell us about where you're at. How long have you been there, and what are you doing at Connect.org?
So the best job in the world with the best team in the world at Connect. Honestly, like I was in my dream job. Like I love New Orleans. It was my alma mater. I worked for my alma mater. I had my dream house. It is now my albatross. If anyone's looking for a house in New Orleans, hit me up. But yeah, it all kind of brings to this moment where I was fortunate at age like 29 when I entered tech transfer and knowledge transfer. I got to come to a conference and see Mary Walshock speak. And Mary is a titan of San Diego, and she's a PhD sociologist who helped design Connect, which exists to help entrepreneurs on their journey. But she did it kind of from that perspective of sociology and how people interact and what will help people drive forward more rather than just a science or engineering background. And she did it in partnership with scientists and engineers. But I think the reason that San Diego is what San Diego is, and it is as as what can we do for you versus what can you do for me as a city,
Mm.
and B has such diverse industries is Mary's influence in many ways. So I got to see her talk, and I just kind of followed Connect for
Wow,
years.
that's
And when I was
amazing.
in Louisville, when I was in
Mm.
DC, when I was in New Orleans, they're all smaller ecosystems, and they could all learn from what Connect did back when San Diego was a smaller ecosystem
Mm.
before it became the incredibly mature place that it is now.
So how did you get the gig with Connect? Did you say they were hiring? Did you know
Oh,
somebody?
so yeah, so this is a hysterical story. So one of my best friends who I'm living with right now in his guest room while I sell my house, Mike Rondelli, he and then about 29 of my other friends all saw this post that James Mackay put up on LinkedIn, the chair of the board of Connect, where they were looking for a
Mm.
CEO. And yet, if you looked at everything except for one thing, it fit me perfectly. Like, this is the job for you. You should do this. And Mike loves San Diego, has been here for years. He's like, San Diego needs you. You need to do this. And then the very top, though, says you should have lived in San Diego for 10 to 15 years. Well, clearly I did not meet that metric. And so we're going go back and forth and back and forth. And I have as everyone has group text now, I have a group text for years with my friend Dr. Elaine Ham, Mike, and my friend Holly Meadows, and they're harassing me. And finally one day I just go, man, with all these red exclamation marks. And I was like, yeah, this is never going to work out. It makes no sense. And they have now circled that and said this aged well with a little arrow drawn down. But
Mm.
they just finally convinced me, like, just send him a note and see what happens. So I
Mm.
sent James Mackay an email and just said, I have always followed Connect. Mary Walshock has meant the world to me throughout my career. I've learned so much, and I'm probably not what you're looking for, but I would love to have a conversation.
Mm.
Which is why you should always just send the note. And James will tell the story publicly, so I feel very comfortable saying it. Like, he will say, like, we weren't, because you didn't meet that metric, and we weren't going to pull you in. He said, but there was something about your note where I said, I'm going to give this guy a shot. And he said all my interviews for this were about 10 minutes. Yours was 47. He's like, and I hung up from that call and I sent the executive committee a note and said I found our CEO. And
Mm.
it literally steamrolled from there. It
What
was
wait
crazy.
what was the thing that got you the job though? Did they tell you?
I have no idea. Like, I don't. I mean,
Really, it's a
I
mystery.
think it's that, what I've always been passionate, and honestly, this is a dream job, and I think that came through. And I think too that it's not about me. It's about this team that I get to work with in San Diego and what they can bring to bear. I'm a much more of a what are our ideas versus what are mine. And I, of course, have ideas, and they tell me 99% of them are dumb, but 1% are good, and they let me do that. But I've
Yeah.
got an amazing team. I've got Trey, I've got Kate Kelly, our chief strategy officer, Gretel Von Son, our COO, and then we have Peter Stegman, who's our head of entrepreneurial programs. But this team of amazing leaders, I think, and I saw the value in that team and retaining them and elevating them, and I think the board saw that too and wanted to have someone who would work with the group.
So how do you take the current team and vision of the organization and then bring your own? Is there a listening? Is there a time of listening to the people
Oh yeah.
that are running it, the people you're serving? What's that? How long does that listening take place before you start to build a vision and strategy for where you want it to go?
Yeah, so we had a rough that I kind of threw together to pitch the board and said, here's what I would think coming in not knowing anything. And I worked with that with the team, and so Trey saw that very early on. But then the team and I spent about 4.5 months just going around and talking to people, saying, okay, here's a baseline. What do you think? What do you need to do? And there are things we're not doing in that. There are things we've added into that. And I think the thing we heard the most was that what we need is what is needed for a mature ecosystem, which, this is arguably the maturest ecosystem in the world for innovation. And it's the first kind of to reach that stature where we have life science, tech, climate, defense, AI. We have all these different verticals. We're not just tech and life science. We have so many others. And when you look at life science, the fact that it is driven by data, tech, AI, that kind of stuff. Now, life science is not just life science now. This is the best place for that.
Mm,
Um,
agreed.
and so I think with it now, of course, I've lost my train of thought. I forgot
You
where
were
we were
going with
going.
the vision, and
The
I think
vision, yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
so that leads into the fact that Connect exists to provide pathways, proof, and a platform for
Mm.
people. And the pathways is helping these entrepreneurs on their journey, and that what Connect has to offer is not just what Connect has to offer. We have great programs like Springboard, like Cool Companies, some other things, but we can be the front door to everything San Diego has. And as the only entity that I know of in San Diego that takes no equity, no fees from the companies they help, we're unbiased because there's nothing driving us.
Mm,
We don't benefit from the
wow.
help we do, other than the fact that if we do great work, we hope those companies become successful. They come back and join our board so that we have funding to continue to do the good work.
Right, because you're a nonprofit.
We're a nonprofit,
That's brilliant.
absolutely.
That's a what I mean. That's a unique way to help people because I'm sure a lot
Mhm.
of organizations that are for profit, they're taking that equity, they're taking
Yeah,
large fees.
and even not for
Yeah.
profit because they have to find a way to sustain themselves.
Mhm.
And so we've been fortunate to have an incredible community that supports us through board fees and paying to be on the board because they believe in the mission, or grants and donating back. And so that pathway is what Springboard will become, and we can talk more about what it was later if you'd like to as well. But Springboard is going to become, here's how you access everything. So every other organization in San Diego is a collaborator and not a competitor for us
Mm,
because they're pieces we can refer entrepreneurs out at the right moments.
I see.
And so that's helping the guide on the pathway. Proof is giving credibility. And so we're doubling down on the verticals of San Diego, ensuring that we have people. We're starting just with life science and a combination of tech defense, but we'll split those out into two different individuals. We'll probably add AI, maybe by national health, but things that San Diego is strong in, ensuring that we have individuals who are focused on kind of going deep, knowing the academics, the companies, the investors, the service providers in those areas who then come together as a team. to function with the programs that we offer. And that helps give credibility, because then when those folks talk about those companies, they'll be seen as experts in their field and their vertical, and that helps the companies elevate as far as their perception, which helps the region elevate as far as perception, because we haven't done a great job in San Diego of telling our story. We kind of wait for people to discover us, and we have to stop doing that, or the Bay Area and Boston are going to eat our lunch. And then that leads to the last bit, and what Trey's hard job is focusing on that platform, or telling the story of San Diego, highlighting our CEOs. We'll be starting a fellow podcast of yours called the Connect Current, doing press releases for companies, helping to do partnerships with conferences that are either here or elsewhere, both for media exposure, to negotiate discounts for our San Diego companies to get in cheaper so they can afford to do more, and positioning them on stage as part of panels, platforms, those kinds of things. But anything that can provide kind of that focus on San Diego and our companies, which brings in more venture capital from outside and allows the region to grow and thrive.
We have the regional approach right now, but
Mm-hmm.
do you want to take this global?
Well, so we're always going to be focused on our San Diego companies, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be global in our reach for them. So one of the things, and this goes back to, and I always give her credit, Tari Sapropto was one of my soft references for this job, and she told them that I would bring the world to San Diego and take San Diego to the world, because that's kind of what I've done in my career. And that doesn't mean you're not focused on the companies here, but it means for companies to be successful in the world the way it is today, you can't just focus on San Diego. We have to help them access things outside. And Connect's fortunate that something will be reactivating towards the end of 26 into 27, that we actually had a program called Global Connect, where 50 countries around the world copied the Connect model. And we kind of gave them what we called Connect in a box at that point. And there are some that are still called Connect. There's Connect Norway. There are 3 Connect Swedens, a Connect Ireland, and others have changed their names to something else. But Norway reached out and wants to, like, can we reactivate that network and all be connected and share? And when our companies want to come to the US, they come to San Diego through you. When yours want to come here, they come through us, which benefits everyone. But that's something that, as we get our rebuild year going this year, towards the end of this year, beginning of next, we're going to look at that. So definitely global's in our mind. And then through the Alliance for AI in Healthcare, that is a global program as well. So we're sort of starting that right now to kind of see how it'll work.
Wow. Amazing. When you look at these startups or whatever stage they're in, like, do you have a barometer to say, oh my gosh, I think that's really it solves a big problem for a niche audience, or like, what do you look at when you look at the maybe there's a few gems that you're really like, you really think, man, this is really good. What's the criteria for that?
This is where we rely on experts a lot, because you can be an expert in this much usually, and we have a network of 3,000 experts that Petra, our head of entrepreneurial programming, has curated, and she's able to pull those people together for our startups, and that's through what is currently our Springboard program, which is kind of expanding to this network of San Diego. But right now, it's when companies have a deck and kind of want feedback and to understand where they are, and are they that kind of company that should be going for this funding, or is there more work to do? Petra can pull together a group of 4 or 5 experts who are in that area from the 3,000 who are willing to volunteer their time. They come on, they do a Zoom with this company, the company does their pitch, and we kind of get that feedback. And so we're able to pull from all these incredibly intelligent venture capitalists, titans of industry, and it's the community knowledge, which is also something that does not happen in other cities in San Diego, because everyone's more competitive there and they're worried about sharing too much. And in this region, you see that people see, if I lift up that company, that lifts me too. And it's very, very different.
Do you think entrepreneurism is it gaining popularity? Do people want to create something new? And I mean, how does somebody get started? Let's say they have a great app idea in AI, or a great biotech, med device, or defense tech. I mean, the amount of research and the millions of dollars that go in before proof of concept. My friend was the CEO of a biotech incubator, and they had a drug that was at the last trial before it went to market, and it failed.
Yeah.
And he said
many drugs. Yeah.
He said all the 50 million that we have invested in this, and he lost his job as the CEO because it was gone. It evaporated. And he was really devastated, because it was, 7 years of JD MBA from Stanford, really smart guy. He said, yeah, I had that nice salary, but now all of that time, it's just done.
But that experience, though, that he got from doing that, and entrepreneurs say this all the time, but it's true. what he learned from doing that positions him to take the next company forward so much more effectively,
Mm-hmm.
because he'll see pitfalls, or he'll see sooner. And people like to say in biotech, and in science, you want to kill things as quickly as possible so that you don't get that far along.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a funny phrase that my friend, again, Elaine Ham, taught me, is that as you're going through, you go through animal models for biotech, that mice lie, monkeys exaggerate, and humans fail. And that's kind of the process you go through for a lot.
Wow.
A lot of biotech or pharma goes through kind of those models, and they're not the same as humans, and you can't predict how humans are going to respond. But we keep trying, because without trying, you don't innovate and get the new medicines. And that's where I think, quite honestly, the U.S. has been so far ahead of everywhere else in the world, because we've put that money historically into science, and allowed people to go forward and try things that were new, as opposed to just being like, oh, we don't do the risky things.
Mm-hmm.
We have to fund the risky things, but then we also have to realize that the price that seems so expensive for one thing is paying for the 50 that didn't happen,
Yeah.
as well as the one that did. It's not just that cost.
So without getting into politics, but looking at this current administration, because I know historically the government has funded new innovations in academia. Are we falling behind in that funding now? Do you deal with government funding when it comes to research and development, or is it all private equity?
So Connect hasn't done with that as much. So you have bits and pieces, like the SBIR funding is obviously incredibly helpful for the companies we work with. But I was happy to see that Congress has more or less said that they're going to try and keep funding levels for science at the same levels, despite what was put forth. And that generates that's the raw material we need to form companies.
Right.
And without that, you don't have innovation economy companies. So it's good that it's there.
Because private equity is not investing
private
at
equity-
high risk.
They're way down when you have all
Right.
the sales, and they could take it over and turn it into something.
You've already invested $50 million, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's a
Wow.
good idea. You have a proof of concept." So, I'm working with MedTech right now, a company just down the road here, and I'm interviewing spinal surgeons, 3D printing of organs,
Oh yeah.
of bone,
Very
of
cool.
skin.
Yep.
But what's interesting is they said this is not going to be ready for 10 or 15 years.
Oh, absolutely.
They're like, we're making good progress, but one of the issues is the eco cycle that the skin might go in doesn't accept the 3D printed skin. It's not the skin itself that doesn't work. It's the skin around it's not accepting it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. I think
So how do you print it differently in a way that is acceptable?
Right, right, and it's. I mean, they're making milestones in progress for some of this stuff. Do you think that we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, the ability to print biological tissues and stuff?
I hope so.
And are you working with any companies that are doing that?
So I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that Petra would be able to tell you once we get our director of life science, which we're down to our final 4 interviews for that. So we'll have that person in a month or so. That'll be their jobs.
Yeah.
It's weird because it used to be my job and it's not my job now.
Moving on, buddy. Moving on. So let's talk a little bit about the program, the Maker program within Connect. What is that all about?
Well, it's not within Connect. It's totally separate.
Okay. Maker's different.
Yeah. So Maker is like my side hustle. It is a investment platform based out of Los Angeles. So kind of like an investment fund that also partners with a holding company, an AI powered marketing agency, and they have a digital studio as well. But primarily, Maker exists to make investments and partnerships with companies in what we're referring to as kind of the autonomous age, or AI, machine learning, advanced manufacturing, and advanced energy, new forms of energy. It's been really interesting that this group, this fund just formed a year ago. I'd met the principals like 5 years prior, and they called me and were like, a lot of people we don't know. We want you to be part of this, mainly because of the academic and startup connections that I had. Because, in the Alliance for AI and Healthcare, being part of academic medicine, it brought in a lot of the pieces they needed. And it's been very fortunate my move here, because Maker has done, for the first fund they're raising, MOUs with 5 companies. 3 of them are Connect portfolio companies, which means that the minute they raise those funds, those companies get funding, which helps drive them forward. And the really interesting thing is all 3 of those companies will interrelate and work with each other, coming out of San Diego too. And that got pulled together through kind of Maker's relationship down in San Diego. And now they see us as this incredible asset that they were literally up the road in LA
Hmm.
and didn't realize how much was here.
Mm.
And so that's where I think again we have to tell our story better.
So how are these organizations? Are they similar or different to, let's say, Y Combinator? Is that, am I saying that right?
Yeah, so Y
It's a
Combinator,
huge. It's a
yeah, it's
huge
like an
platform.
accelerator,
Yeah,
incubator, and
yeah,
an investor. So they actually have the space they bring companies into.
yeah.
Maker is more of just kind of an investment fund in a way. So they invest in companies but don't have space they bring them into. Connect is the original accelerator before that word existed. We kind of created it where you help companies you don't have space that you house them in, where they rent space from you, but you give the services around that. And that's kind of what Connect has been for its last 40 years. And we're moving into a new phase where we're training our working out what the word is. But Connect was an accelerator before the word existed. It was the first intentional ecosystem builder before the word ecosystem existed. You can argue the Bay Area was first, but
Hmm.
it wasn't intentional. It just happened.
Wow.
San Diego intentionally made this happen. So
Connect was before Y Combinator.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're for everyone else.
Wow.
Like
Isn't that
it is the
something?
OG grandmother, Mac Daddy, however you want to say it. Like Connect is what everyone copied.
Mm. What have I missed in this conversation so far that's really important about either the region or the industries or where you're going with Connect that people should know about?
I think we've covered a lot of it. I think it really comes down to the fact that this is kind of a Connect 3.0, and we have a group of 7 people we call our founders of Connect from 40 years ago. And we had our 40th anniversary celebration in December. We kind of presented the new vision forward. And a couple of them sent emails and said, this is Connect 3.0, which is kind of nice to hear. So it's a really interesting reset year, which is fun. It's also a lot of work because we're figuring out, how do you become what the region needs at a point where everything has changed again. And we think we figured it out, but we're going to try things. We're figuring out how do we help people navigate everything in San Diego, which is a daunting task, but incredibly needed. And then how do we amplify their stories in a way that is most effective so that we bring in the funding, the collaborations, the things that this region needs, and the attention to San Diego. And I think if we do that, we're doing everything right.
Don't bring more traffic here, James.
Well,
the traffic's already bad.
The sad
Don't
thing
make
is,
San Diego more popular. I'm upset with you.
If we're doing our jobs, we're gonna have more traffic.
Oh gosh, great. Have you been on the 805 recently? I mean,
I know it's kind of terrible. I agree. Although I have lived in Los Angeles and DC, and the traffic here is nothing. I'm like, this isn't so bad, but no, it is. It is. Trey and I were actually joking about this the other day. Like, oh, if we do our jobs well, there's going to be more traffic.
So you already have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sadly, yeah. No, like
and I'm right there with you.
It makes us sad in a way because
Yeah.
there are trade offs, but maybe some of these companies can be virtual and people will live right there.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've noticed in the Sorrento Valley space where our studio is the Longfellow commercial group that's put in all these labs. I have to say they all look pretty empty. I've heard is there a crisis going on with some of these big commercial lab spaces, and why is that?
I don't know if it's a crisis yet, but I do think there was building in anticipation of a lot of things that aren't here right now, and I think there was a lot of these were started either before or during COVID in hopes. I think if Connect does its job right, will help solve that. But there is a lot of empty space, and I'll say, for any of those buildings that are empty and want to bring some attention, Connect is looking for a home in Sorrento UTC, and we're a nonprofit, so we don't have dollars, but we're a tax write-off, and we bring a lot of attention because every press release we do, we'll be happy to say we're housed at this building.
Well, I think if and I want to talk to you about this offline but doing media in one of those spaces,
100%
with the Connect org, I think, and I don't know how you feel about media these days, but these podcasts are everything. They're getting the most views out of just
100%.
about any piece of content. I mean, Joe Rogan's one of the biggest names in entertainment, and he started as, what show did Fear Factor?
Fear Factor, and before that he was something else too, which I forgot, but like had nothing forever. Yeah.
But that guy is so good. I mean, I just love. He just knows how to take a conversation, and he's done a wonderful job. But there's other podcasts. Do you have any favorite podcasters?
I'm biased, but I'll say Dr. Elaine Ham from Bio from the Bayou, because the one we started. Absolutely love that. I listen to it if you're in biotech, I encourage, because it's not just it's broadcast from the Bayou, but it's not just people from the Bayou. and it's shorter. It's like 15 to 30 minutes, incredibly insightful conversations and a lot of information you can use. So that's one of my absolute favorites. I loved Brene Brown back in the day when she was doing her stuff. Like, and I'm weird. I like flip around and just randomly find something that I listen to a couple episodes, and then then we're working nonstop again, and I'll forget. But it's something nice to throw in the car between. If I can find one that's like 15, 20 minutes where you can listen to one or two between meetings, that's what I love. It's hard for me when they get to the hour, hour and a half. I'm like, that's a commitment.
Yeah, right. It is. Unless it's really engaging and pointing to what you want to listen to. But I agree with that. Let's talk about the big companies that already exist in San Diego. There's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions. One of my clients, BioLegend, got bought up by Parker Elmer. Nuvasiv got bought up by Globus. So you're seeing these mergers going on with some of the more medium-sized companies, I would consider them, large, medium-sized companies. How do the startups interact? Like, let's say somebody's creating a hardware that interfaces with Snapdragon, Qualcomm, one of Qualcomm's divisions, or a piece of biotech or med device that one of these companies can use. Do you see that happening with the bigger companies, like selling off to one of them as a goal for some of the startups?
For many startups.
Okay,
especially with your equity, that's where your equity gets its value. Is many startups have their goal to be acquired by a larger company, because that's where the value really comes in for the people who've invested and other things. That's where your payout comes. Some, though, you want a lifestyle. They want to continue, which means they may not make as much, but they've got a good life and they're producing good stuff. So it kind of all comes down to the goal of the entrepreneur, but it's easier to get investment when you can sell that that's a possibility and that is your goal.
What percentage of companies would you say you work with that's their goal?
Oh, gosh. I'm doing a shot in the dark, but I think probably 90% of startups, who in innovation space have a goal to be acquired because they know that's where they make their money.
What do you think about AI robots in the future? Are we going to have
robot overlords?
Are we going to have
I welcome them, and I'm excited for their reign.
Are you one of James is an AI robot?
I never know. Never know.
You're too smart. I mean, you win all the time. You never fail.
Well, I lose all the time, but I fail a lot.
Well, let's transition into that.
You should come by the office one day and see how much coffee is down my shirt. Nope, he's not AI.
Let's talk about failure for a minute. I mean, failure is part of success.
100%.
I mean, how many times Thomas Edison failed? Like 10,000 times.
Yeah.
After he stole Tesla's idea.
The things I've tried that have been epic, programs and things like that didn't work. Well, just keep going. I had a job when I was moving to LA for Extra, doing the same kind of thing for a group at CompuServe. And they're like, oh, well, there's a conflict now. So they fired me, which they'd never talked about before I took the job at Extra. I'm like, this benefits you. But, it's just, those kinds of things that stick with you. And, I can tell you, like, when you're younger and you don't get the grade, like, I went to college and I didn't have to work hard in high school. And in college, like, I was like the C student in science, but doing it because it was the right thing. That my parents like, you should be a science major. Got A's in English, the things that require the more creative thinking I was great at. The things that you require the detailed study and analysis was just so much harder for me.
There's an old adage that says that I can't remember who said it. It says, try again and then quit. There's no use in being a damn fool about it. You like that one?
Is that like the fool me once, fool me twice?
Third time? Know, but I loved it because I was like, at what point do you bow out when you fail versus continue to try?
And is it bow out or is it find a new path? Because I don't think it's bowing out. I think it's what's the different path that makes sense, which maybe is more interesting to you or has a different level of resistance that you can overcome. And that's why we talk about pathways and not pipelines that connect, because pathways diverge. Pipelines usually are straight and people think of them as leaky, and that's not great, but a pathway can go in any direction. And so that's why I don't think it's necessarily failure. It's where'd your path go?
What's more powerful, a really well done pitch deck or somebody's network when it comes to startup founding?
It is. So I'll say network, but by network, I mean the team. And you have to have a good pitch deck, but if you have the right team and they're good people and they're people that people want to be around and they see the value in the team, people will flock around you to help you make your pitch deck better. If the team isn't like that, it doesn't matter how great your pitch deck is.
Gotcha. Do you think your networks help you get where you're at right now?
Oh, 100%. I've been very fortunate in life to be surrounded. And I'll say, quite honestly, like some of I'll talk about some of my earlier bosses, Dr. Nancy Martin from the University of Louisville, who hired me a corporate coach when I was 30. So this is kinder, gentler, softer me. But she transformed my career, and she's the one who taught me, I never want you to say no, and it doesn't mean you say yes, but there's a different way of saying no than no. Which is it's a different way. It's like, here's what we can do, which is adjacent.
Yeah.
She was incredible. My boss at HHMI, Joanne Thurich, was incredible, and she came out of finance and was the chief operating officer, and just amazing. Dr. Lee Ham at Tulane, who helped lead Tulane through Katrina and things like that. Then watching him lead during COVID and what we did together, and it doesn't mean you always get along, but people who inspire you and you can learn from. Like, I've been so fortunate with folks who are just willing to open their networks, which is why I try and do the same thing. And as you get busier, it's harder to do that for everyone. But I think it's important to share and make those connections for people, so then that network keeps growing and helping everyone.
You mentioned COVID before.
Yeah.
Before we started the episode, we talked about how COVID has changed us today. I mean, it's 2019 and before was a way of life, 2020 to now. What are there any pluses or minuses you see after COVID happened and that continue to linger to today?
So it's interesting. I think the work life balance, as far as where you're able to work, is better for many people. As far as being able to manage kind of life, and especially with families and everything else, like, there's a huge value there. But I think we have to balance that with what I think we've lost is the in-person interaction among teams. And there's a way to do a bit of both in being hybrid that I think allows everyone to have the best of both worlds. That word. But I worry sometimes that we went too far to, like, all remote and stuck there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I think we have to be in the office 5 days a week, or that you can't have flexible schedules, but I do think magic happens when people are in person in a room together. And I never want to see us lose that. And I think COVID took a little bit of that away.
How do we prevent the insane amount of innovation from destroying our world and our way of life? I saw something recently that said Amazon's potentially going to lay off, when they figure out how to replace the delivery drivers and the warehouse workers, 600,000 people displaced. That's one company.
Right.
Now, I'm sure that's across the board. And my guess is AI is already powerful enough to eradicate a lot of more jobs than it has currently, because it'd be absolutely pandemonium in the street.
It's not perfect yet. So
it's not perfect yet.
It might do them in a really poor way. And so it's like...
But once that's perfected, are we in trouble?
So, I mean, again, I think this goes back to our earlier conversation. Are some career fields or job titles in trouble? Probably yes. But I think there'll be a whole bunch of new ones. And I don't think they're all going to be the super high level. I could be wrong. But, there's a lot of things that still will take the human touch. And again, I do think creativity is something we're never going to be able to replicate.
Yeah, but look, if the Industrial Revolution, people do compare it to that, I think this is on a whole nother scale.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it's an exponential scale. Yeah.
It is. So people compare that, but I'm like, maybe it is comparable, but it's not. But if AI codes for AI, or robots are fixing robots, that's not the case. Where you're like, oh, well, what if robots put together a server warehouse and maintain it? People are like, oh, humans are going to do that. I'm like, but if robots can do it, why would a company pay humans to do it? So to me, it's like in an ideal scenario, it would create more jobs. I don't know if it's more specialized jobs.
AI is just one field. What's the next field going to be?
Yeah,
it's going to require humans and not robots. Like, you don't know what's coming next, and so I think that fear is. I think it's. All fears are valid in some way. So it's valid, and it's something to look at. But I think innovation isn't going to stop just because we have AI. There's going to be more innovation, and maybe innovation will happen faster, and maybe we'll be able to innovate the things that help us from destroying the world as
That's
part
true.
of that.
And our health too. Yeah. I mean, there are some benefits. I don't always want to be like doomsday here with it, because I think there's some.
I was like,
great
you're
things.
super dark today. Who
Well,
are you?
These are
Who hurt you?
Who are you really?
We're gonna have you watch A Christmas Prince on Netflix. Like, when they sent out that tweet, like, some of you watched it 14 times.
Well,
who hurt you? I'm wondering.
James, I miss the extra days. I miss the bars across the screen. I mean, I am nostalgic for some of those days.
You can still go. You can still go hang out in a bar. You can still go do that.
All right, man. Hey, listen, I got some rapid fire questions for you.
Fire away.
More personal stuff. Some is still.
Bring it.
So this is between your professional and personal career. All right.
I'm single. My personal career is a failure. Or success, depending on how you look at it. I don't
love
know.
One word to describe your leadership style.
Inclusive.
Inclusive. The number one thing a San Diego startup needs to go global.
Connect.
Okay, best place.
That was self-serving, I know. It's true. It really is. I mean, you look at this industry, yeah.
Okay, the biggest mistake you see in Series A pitches.
The biggest mistake, I think, is a poor deck, quite honestly, and assuming things more than you should. Is do your homework and get to know who you're pitching to, which goes into the deck. Like, are you giving the right information versus just the information you give everyone?
Great. Best book for startups. Best book for startup.
Oh, I'm going to go to the book I go to for everything, for everyone. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. If you're not functioning like that and you aren't able to have healthy conflict and communicate, startups doomed to fail, teams doomed to fail. We read it at Connect. Like, that is it.
What see you say it again?
The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni.
The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Okay, we'll have to win that.
And it's short. It reads like a book of fiction, and it's short, so it's actually a fun read.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll check that out. Thank you for that suggestion. Best place in San Diego to close a deal over coffee.
Well, obviously the Bird Rock and Park and Market where Connect has their offices right now. But from what I see, it's usually out at like Farmer and the Seahorse in Alexandria or One Paseo.
That's fun. I love it. That's fun. They got cornhole. I mean, what else do you need?
What you see, because I'll do days where I work for there, and what I see over here, I'm like, this is kind of cool just to sit here and listen to what's going on around you.
Yeah. What's one thing you do to keep you sane?
I'm living with one of my best friends right now. He has 2 cats, so I'm either greeted with joy or derision every day. And one of our favorite shows is Cougar Town. So I get home every night, and usually, Mike is doing a startup, so his schedule is way better than mine. But I get home, and we throw on an episode or 2 of Cougar Town and laugh at some penny can.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
If you haven't watched it, y'all need to.
I haven't seen it.
It is genius.
So your morning routine, is it inbox zero or deep work at first?
Everyone can tell you I have no inbox zero. Everything lives there forever. It's that way I can find it. Now, my morning routine is get my butt to the gym if possible, and then get rolling. So it's usually it's starting with a coffee or a Zoom to begin the day, and I find time to do inbox in the evenings and weekends.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's more important, discipline or creativity?
Oh, creativity, 1,000%.
Why?
That's me. But for other people, it's discipline. I think without creativity, you don't get the spark.
And where do you get that from?
Creativity. Oh, I am the perfect storm of my parents. Literally, like, my parents are similar and different people, and I see so much of both of them in myself as I age, and that's where it comes from. But also, I talk to people. Like when I was in New Orleans, one of my best friends is Abigail Gulo, who's one of the top cocktailers in the world. Like, Kathy Lee and Hoda flew her up to like make cocktails on the Today Show for a week. She's just phenomenal. But she and I would trade. Like, you think they're very different professions. Same. It's all about interacting with people. How do you do things? A lot of deals get done over cocktails. But she and I would actually sit and talk about our businesses, and it's a business operation. And I think getting outside of the space you're in and talking to people, and what can you bring in from that, is where creativity happens. So I love sitting and talking to people in fields that people would think would not be the same, that really have a lot of similarities.
Do you do it with other people, or is there a way that you find your creative inspiration by yourself? Meditation, reading a book, going to the beach?
People walking? Mostly for me. Like, I am an introvert, and quiet isn't quite as important at night, but like where I find my spark is other people, and I will adapt and steal a good idea from anywhere, because adapt is the Hollywood word for stole.
Say that again?
Adapt is the Hollywood word for stole. And I got that from, this is going to be a way, way, way throwback and age me way beyond it. There was a TV show called Fame back, it was based off the movie Fame back in like the 80s. And they did a live TV special. And they came out one day and they were doing a ripoff of Shakespeare called Desdemona. And he's like, you can't do this, you're stealing it. And Debbie Allen goes, the famous Debbie Allen goes, it's an adaptation. That's a Hollywood word for stole. And I've used that forever.
It's so true. I mean, we borrow concepts
100%
from other people all the time. That's no.
As long as you give credit, that's why you.
Whoever markets the best wins, though.
Oh,
that's what I've noticed.
Well, that's
over
why
time,
when I'm like, oh, I got this from, so like, Tari thinks I stole this from this person and they should have credit.
Yeah, that's why media is so important. If you can get your story out in these podcasts or in social media, it's incredible what you can do. You don't even have to be the smartest in the room.
I'm never the smartest in the
why?
room.
I doubt that, James. You are a smart guy.
Oh, I know a lot of smart people, which makes me appear smart.
Right. Why are engineers and scientists, mechanical engineers, scientists, why is it hard for them to wrap their brain around how to market their products? They might be great at developing the product, but what are they lacking, and how can they improve what they're lacking?
I wouldn't say lacking. I'd say it's where they're focused, and I think they're focused on the problem and the solution, and not how to get it to other people as much. And that's not what you want them focused on. And that's where you need people like Trey Brackett to come in and do that for them. And that's why we have Trey and a marketing specialist, Kylie Hovey, on our team, who really do this for and help our entrepreneurs figure out how do we do this. And we're proud also, one thing we didn't talk about, but we're proud to be part of the SBDC network in Southern California. We're one of, is it 9 SBDCs? 10 SBDCs in Southern California. Trey's holding up his hands to cue me. And we're one of 3 specialty in San Diego where we do higher innovation stuff. But part of that can be they can access Trey's expertise through that and get marketing advice.
STBC, is that a business connector?
Small Business Development Corp. Yeah.
Small.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so usually you think about SBDCs, the way most people think about them are, people standing up like a restaurant or a service industry or something. But they also support innovation vertical companies, and they're a tremendous supporter of Connect. And so through their funding for us through grants, we're able to do more work for those innovation vertical companies, and partner with the SBDC at the Brink at USD, which does really early stage help for companies, earlier than what Connect does now, but what Connect did 40 years ago. So we don't need to replicate that. We refer them over to the Brink, bring them back in, and then at the point where they've gone past us and they're ready for global expansion, we have the World Trade Center SBDC right next door at the EDC, and we can send them over there to do world expansion. Wow. And it's really incredible that we have all 3 of those in San Diego.
We're blessed for sure.
We are, yeah.
I mean, it's great. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave founders with today that either you're working with or they're going to come to you in the future? What's just the one thing that you see that they can really improve upon?
It's not so much improvement. The thing I think they should focus on is, be a network, get to know your fellow founders. And I'll say, people tell you how being a CEO is a lonely job. And I read books about it coming to this, and it is. It's different because, you have a team, but your team technically works for you. And so your team becomes other CEOs where you can share problems and those kinds of things. And that community is so important to actually develop for yourself. And I'd say, go out to the mixers, come to a Connect event, go to Startup San Diego. If Jonah or Neil are doing a hike or something, go visit those. Misty over at Techstars, just get out. Don't just sit and do your thing. Get out. And this community, especially here, this community, it's so easy to do that. And don't stand in a corner. And it was as part of what we're doing at Connect, we're doing kind of a 40-year history. And Trey's been fortunate to have a student intern, Paul, who's kind of interviewing people. And we learned that for Dwayne Roth, one of the rules he had for his team is no one stands alone, which means if someone's standing by themselves, we go over and introduce them to somebody else. And I think that's the thing. No one stands alone. Don't stand alone. Go talk to somebody and figure out how you might help each other.
Well, let me ask you a question then for that. What if somebody's shy? I would say
I'm 1,000% shy.
So you're at we go to these events or conventions, and give us a tip on what would you go up and say to somebody that you don't know?
I'll just walk up, if we're at a convention, depending on the topic, and often I'm just like, hey, I'm James, I'm with Connect, who are you with? Tell me about what you're working on.
That's smart. Oh, I like that.
It's weird, and I'll be honest, with women, I'm like, I'm super gay, I'm not hitting on you, but just, because, sometimes that is it's a weird thing you see, and you just try and make people comfortable. It's fortunate, if you've seen them on a panel or saw them, saw their product, or something about their company or someone who they might know, you just try and think of something you can start the conversation, but it's hard. I'll say people think I'm an extrovert because I'm really good at my job. Yeah. I do recharge in quiet every night.
Yeah, that's a good tip too. It's good. You got to recharge your batteries. I mean, what's your favorite big company in the world?
Oh God, in the world? I don't want to pick just one. The one that hasn't joined our board yet and joins after this podcast, they'll be my favorite. Trey's now very high. He's like, yes, and Kate's going to give me a gold star. No, seriously, I'm going to hold out on my favorite, and I will publicly announce them after they join our board.
Oh, well, okay. The next big hub after San Diego,
Yeah.
or is there one?
So I like to focus less on the big hubs and more on the next tier of hubs and how Connect's going to work with that. We've already had some of the smaller hubs in Alabama reach out to us. We've had the Gulf South folks, and I think that's where the big hub of San Diego can become kind of the where all the spokes come into. And so I think it's all those places that are up and coming. When you want to say who's big, it depends. Are we talking about biotech? Are we talking about tech? Are we talking about a mix? Because the answer changes depending on that. Like, people think of San Francisco as the tech hub. When you're thinking of biotech, people will think of Boston first. But the Research Triangle will argue that they're there, and it all depends too on what do you want out of it. Do you want the hardcore go go go? Do you want a more little balanced quality of life? And yeah, so my answer is, you can tell I went to law school twice. It depends.
Well, one of the things you've said kind of a few times is about storytelling, about telling your story. This intersection that you have between media and tech, defense tech, AI, science. How important is it to tell your story in an engaging way, and how do you do that?
It's the most important thing you can do, and honestly, it's even more than storytelling. And this is a term I learned just like 2 years ago. It's story making, and part of that is understanding what drives you and what your goal is at the end. And for Connect, it's that we help people navigate the ecosystem and we help amplify their story. So every time we tell a story, it has to be kind of with that in mind and helping to elevate those companies towards that direction, that San Diego is the place for the best companies in the world, both for the companies and for the region. So for every time we do our podcast, we do a press release, we kind of have that in mind, that this is what we're guiding towards, because that will pull in more investment attention. And when people invest here, hopefully then companies stay here. And we're also fortunate that you have many places that are not Boston, San Francisco, where there is a lot of venture funding. When those people invest in a company, they move it there. San Diego is a pretty nice place to visit, so we have a little bit of a many places
the weather,
where investors are willing to come here, and we have a whole lot. And I talk about this a lot, but we have a whole lot of family office money here, which the families of means who may not be part of an investment fund or have a separate investment fund, will invest on their own. We have a lot of people who have homes here in those spaces, and we haven't activated that tremendously as an investment realm for our companies. And I think that's something we can do, and that's something that Kate and I are going to focus on. How do we work on doing that in tandem with traditional investment, with patient advocacy groups who will invest for clinical trials and things, with groups like the Milken Institute who help direct funding or invest themselves sometimes, corporate venture arms. How do we pull those people together and do it in San Diego? And we don't know yet, but
well, we're talking about
tuned.
storytelling, and I think your founder's story, the time here, this being a beautiful place, the industries itself, you could the numbers and the growth speak for themselves. The companies we have,
100%.
I mean, the last 30 years, we're taking over Silicon Valley now. I mean, we're on our way there. I mean, we haven't taken it over, but we're making huge strides. And there's a story to that. But going back to the storytelling thing. So if somebody's presenting in front of in a boardroom or on a stage, how important is it for them to think of their audience and how to weave a benefit to the audience or relatability into the story? I think sometimes you don't understand how crucial that part is.
Yeah.
You can tell your story, but you want to weave
it being received. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that? Because you do keynotes and presentations. Yeah. How do you think about, like, if you're going to speak to an audience?
I always ask, who am I talking to? Yeah. Are they PhD scientists? Are they engineers? Are they are general community? Like,
could you start with a question even to people? Have you ever done that?
It depends on the audience. With engineers, that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But things you can engage. I always threaten people because I used to teach spin class and I taught law school, and so I'm like, I taught spin class and law school, and I will come out with a mic and make someone ask a question, engage, or I'll make you do push-ups. It generally gets a laugh of some sort, even though I've been doing it for years. But I think part of it is just connecting and showing people you're vulnerable, so that that's there.
I had a great,
Yeah.
I got a great speaker coach come in here on my last podcast episode, and he said one of the things that great speakers do is they actually interact with their audience before they go on stage. He said one huge keynote came and sat down on the table in front and just
And
started
got up
talking
from
to
there.
them,
Yeah.
and then brought that energy
I
up
love
on
that.
stage. That was one of his biggest
Yeah.
tips. He goes, look at the audience, talk to the
Yeah.
audience, get to know them, because then when you're speaking, it's going to feel like
And you have friends out there. Yeah.
I never heard that. I
That's
thought
why
it was brilliant.
I've never sat at the table and done that. I always try and like get there early and network and talk to people, and they're usually
Yeah.
shocked when they see me on stage.
Right, right. But that helps you.
It also makes you accessible. More people will come talk to you after, like, oh, it's fun, or they'll tell people, go talk to him. He's
Yeah.
either he's a jerk or he's cool, one or the other, depending on how they felt.
Do you get nervous in front of when you go to public?
Always get nervous. Like, yes, 1,000%.
That feeling like right when you're behind the curtain and you peek out and the spotlight's on you.
And apparently it's socially unacceptable to have bourbon before you go on stage. I don't know.
Not if you're from Kentucky
or New Orleans.
Or
Like,
New
New Orleans,
Orleans.
it's fine. Everywhere else they're like, no, you shouldn't drink before you go on stage. I'm like, well, that really helps though. Just one little shot of bourbon.
Yeah, that's
takes
true.
All the edge off.
Well, whatever works for you. I don't think that's no harm, no foul. Well, James, I want to thank you for the great conversation. Where can our audience find more about the businesses and the resources you're providing?
Connect.org.
Connect.org.
Connect.org, or you can email any of the team. Our emails are very easy. If you look at their name, like I am James at Connect.org, Trey at Connect.org, Kate at Connect.org. Like, if you know their first name, you know how to reach them. We've made it super simple this year, and it used to be first initial last name, and we thought, how do we make it easier for the world?
Yeah, there you go. I love first name. That's
First
it.
name.
That's it. Well, I want to wish you all the success with Connect.org and your other ventures you're doing. It's great to have you in San Diego. I hope you have a great time here and do some great business for us.
Awesome. Likewise.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.